tell us about the death of the gunman in the Brown University shooting. This is all centered around a storage facility in Salem, New Hampshire, where a car believed to be operated.
I am a little bit behind. I just got home, and I just got home from dinner, and I want to catch up here. What's going on in the Brown University investigation? Here we go.
Tonight, our Providence neighbors can finally breathe a little easier. In a minute, Colonel Perez will share the latest details on the investigation. But I want to thank the people of Providence for stepping up and coming together during an extraordinarily difficult time. I know this has been hard on all of us. Over the past 5 days, minutes have felt like hours. But the people of Providence have done what we're best at. We've leaned on one another, come together and supported one another, and showed the nation what a tight-knit community looks like. It was because of the information provided to us by neighbors and the tireless work of our Providence Police Department, the Rhode Island State Police, the FBI, the ATF, and many other federal partners. The incredible prosecutorial advice and guidance that we received from the Attorney General's office. We all worked well together to be able to identify this suspect. I know we will have a lot of questions still, and we will continue to work to get those answers. But it is a great honor for me to turn this over to our Chief of Police, Colonel Oscar Perez, and I will say on behalf of the people of Providence, we owe him and every member of the Providence Police Department the deepest debt of gratitude. Colonel?
I was just going to say that.
Well, first and
remember, they told us to shut up. They didn't want us talking about this, right?
Most, I want to offer my deepest condolences to the families, the victims. It was for them that this work was put together to make sure that they get the justice that they deserve and to ensure that this person was held accountable. Second thing I'll tell you is that I'm extremely proud of this department, actually the officers, the detectives, the real-time crime center, the community response team, the intelligence division, the narcotics division,
thank you,
the task force. This past Saturday, as you all know, December 13, Providence Police Department and Brown University Police Department responded to this horrific tragedy at Brown University 184 Hope. Our officers were there within minutes. That same day, Providence police detectives immediately went to work. Looking for video footage to see who this individual was and who was responsible. A person of interest was identified from that video footage. The person of interest was observed down Hope Street, turning onto Waterman Street, and that was one of the first videos that we released. At the same time, every federal agency you can think of was reaching out to the Providence Police Department and responded to the capital city. Images were shared with media within hours. Persons of interest it was the same individual that has been the focus of this investigation since the beginning. All the new images that we received of this person of interest were shared with the media continuously over the past 6 days. This critical evidence was collected with the use of public assistance. As the mayor stated, I'm proud to be the chief of police of this city. I'm proud to be a product of this city for the reasons that the mayor stated. The community stepped up. It was all about groundwork, public assistance, interviews of individuals, and good old-fashioned policing. That is the type of police work that every police officer in this nation reminds themselves of, and that many do not understand. And that is critically important and often succeeds where technology alone cannot. We looked at financial records, we looked at video footages, and in the specific incident, it was actually a video that provided us with a description of a vehicle. That was corroborated through a tip that was received to the tip center. That room was packed with detectives, agents receiving calls on a daily basis. We started early and left late. Then Flock and the LPR was able to provide us with this description of this vehicle. That vehicle was picked up by Flock, which led us to a car rental place in Massachusetts. Through that, the agents and their work as well were able to get us footage of this individual, as well as a copy of the agreement, which provided his real name. The video of that subject matched the description of that person of interest that this police department was desperate to put handcuffs on. That individual was identified as Claudio Neves Valenti, date of birth, and he was a 48-year-old man. He was a Brown student. He was a Portuguese national, and his last known address was in Miami, Florida. And I will tell you that he took his own life tonight. We have members of the Providence Police Department up in Salem, New Hampshire. And we also have the BCI unit. Obviously, the FBI and their evidence recovery unit is up there. So the process is being conducted as we speak. And it goes without saying that I would like to personally thank the efforts again of the Providence Police Department, the Rhode Island State Police, the Rhode Island Attorney General, the FBI, the ATF, HSI, the U.S. Marshals, IRS, DEA, Secret Service, and NCIS. There is no way that we could have done this by ourselves. In this nation, when horrific incidents like this happen, law enforcement steps up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colonel.
I'm going to be very critical here, and I've been critical about this, and I want everybody to understand this. If there were cameras inside the old building, like there should have been, they shouldn't have to go to all of the film out on the streets, the flock camera, go to a rental car agency. This investigation probably would have been, this person of interest would have been, the suspect now would have probably been identified a few days ago. But did you hear the terms of how they found this person? And I hope that the media steps up and criticizes again. And I talked about this on my show last night. $1.2 billion on average come into this school every year. 1.2 billion. And I just put a tweet out today, and you're going to probably see him, and I haven't seen him yet. The chief of Brown University Police back in August was voted a vote of no confidence in his job. And it was confirmed in October once again that was a no confidence vote in his job. All right, let's play through that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. You know, it's I would
imagine the lawsuits that are going to happen from every student's parent that was involved in this, that every student had to witness this, every student that got hurt, every student that unfortunately passed away because of this tragic situation. You wait. There will be multiple lawsuits.
describe the emotions on the investigative team, including our prosecutors and the agents, detectives from both state police, Providence, as mixed. You know, there is a sense of completeness in terms of the investigation, an investigation that's, if not the hardest, among the handful of hardest investigations that I've ever been involved with.
It should have been cameras in the building.
The sense that we owed those 2 dead Brown students and the 9 injured Brown students and the students who were in that auditorium that weren't injured, and the Brown community and the Providence community results. And the teams worked really hard. I think I mentioned that to you almost every night that we met with you. I wish they were all up here with us. That we wouldn't fit here, but it was remarkable to see the cooperation between the FBI agents, the ATF agents, the HSI agents, the Providence police detectives, the state police detectives, our prosecutors. And I will say that everybody brought a certain expertise to the table, but it is nevertheless a sad moment when you think about those young people who were hurt, injured, or worse, or two of them are now deceased. You know, to me, this was always going to be an investigation where something was going to break it open. We were going to pull threads. We were going to gather evidence that would lead us in a particular direction. And I will say that if we were with you less than, well, I guess now more than 24 hours ago, we had that picture of that second individual. And I would say within an hour, no more than two, I think it was under an hour, that person came forward to two Providence police officers over on the east side and said he had information, that he was that person and he had information that could help this case. And I remember last night watching his interview, and he blew this case right open. He blew it open. And that's how these cases sometimes go. You can feel like you're not making a lot of progress. You can feel like you're chasing leads and they don't work out. But the team keeps going because, you know, those of us with experience know that you're going to pull a lot of threads, and it's not always the first one that's going to get you where you need to go. But when you do crack it, you crack it. And that person led us to the car, which led us to the name, which led us to the photographs of that individual renting the car, which matched the clothing of our shooter here in Providence, that matched the satchel that we see here in Providence. He was found dead with a satchel with two firearms and evidence in the car that that matches exactly what we see at the scene here in Providence. And so I know that you and the public have questions about how we got from a place yesterday where all we could share with you was a photograph of someone we wanted to talk to where we got to tonight. And so we got a state arrest warrant for murder today that was signed by a district court judge for this individual. There won't be a prosecution now, of course, but that affidavit is on our website, and you will be able to see more and read more about how this investigation unfolded. I won't get you all the way there because there are some things that happened afterwards which led us to this suspect's body in New Hampshire. But it will, I think, tell you, give you a sense of the work that went into this by the line prosecutors and the line agents and detectives from the agencies that work so well together. So, you know, as I said, it's with mixed emotions. It is unimaginable, the pain that the parents and families of the deceased are feeling tonight and will feel undoubtedly for quite a while. But I hope that by bringing this person to justice, that we can at least give them the beginnings of some measure of closure. And I want to thank you all for your patience with me when I got a little testy with some of you. Those of you who know me from Rhode Island, you know that's my nature. So I really want to thank you for your patience. Thank you.
General, as has been said several times, the partnership with the FBI was invaluable. And so it's a pleasure to introduce Special Agent in Charge of FBI, Ted Dox.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening. My name is Ted Dox, Special Agent in Charge of FBI Boston. We got him. Shortly before 9 o'clock tonight, the FBI SWAT team executed court-authorized search warrants at a storage unit facility in Hampshire Road in Salem, New Hampshire. This is where we located Claudio Neves Valente, the individual who we believe was responsible for the Brown shooting. The latest developments in an intense 5-day manhunt and is a result of an incredible amount of work dedicated by the law enforcement team standing here before you tonight. Every single agency brought their unique skills and expertise to this investigation. And we're motivated by the victims and survivors of this horrific incident. Even though the suspect was found dead tonight, our work is not done. There are many questions that need to be answered. There's a lot of evidence that needs to be processed. And most importantly, the victims and their families deserve special care and consideration. The FBI and our partners across Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire will continue to search for answers for the victims, survivors, and their families to see what motivated this individual to carry out such a senseless act of violence. From the onset of this critical incident, it's been all hands on deck. The FBI deployed approximately 500 special agents, analysts, task force officers, and support personnel to assist our partners in this investigation. In addition to this extra manpower, all our specialty teams.
Let's switch over to the Boston press conference. Maybe we'll go back to this one after, but let's see what's going on in Boston. All right, we're live in Boston.
And a half mile of his apartment. And then later that evening, he is seen about an hour later entering the storage unit wearing the same clothes that he had been seen wearing right after the murder.
So you have an extensive video canvas as part of this investigation that leaves you no doubt.
This is the evidence we have right now. We are coming to you tonight because the federal complaint was unsealed, and we wanted to provide you with the information and to assure the public that law enforcement collectively believe that we have the person, that we identified the person, and that person is dead, and that he was the person responsible not only for the Brown shootings, but for the Brookline shooting.
Can you speak to before the self-inflicted gunshot? Was there any interaction between law enforcement and another military? Like any words exchanged or anything like that?
No, when investigators went into the storage facility tonight to execute the federal search warrant, he was dead.
Do you think he entered there this evening?
No.
He entered an hour after what happened in Brookline.
Yes.
And do you know how long that storage? Did he rent that? Like how long?
Our understanding from the financial investigation is that he had rented a storage facility at the location in Salem, New Hampshire in November.
Can you confirm whether or not he used the same weapon in the Brown shooting as he did in the MIT shooting?
Ballistics investigation was ongoing and has not been completed at this time, so we're not going to comment on that.
Can you give us any sense of when you started to recognize perhaps that he was the same person? I know it was through the video, but
I know.
sort of dawned on investigators that these two cases were related.
It was in the last 24 to 48 hours that my understanding, according to my understanding, is when the link began to be established. And that was mainly, he was using a phone that was obfuscating ability to track it. And he was using financial, like not credit cards that were tied to his name. And so he was sophisticated in hiding his tracks.
According to the complaint that was unsealed, it said that Ms. Fuente and the MIT professor had attended the same academic program together in Portugal from 1995 to 2000. Do you know if they knew each other? Or
My understanding is that they did know each other.
Have they been in communication since that last date?
I don't have any information to provide you.
Would you call this targeted?
We're still investigating the motive in this case and trying to, because like I said, he was very careful in his communications, and we just don't have any information right now to answer that question. But when we get that information, we will share it.
Was there anything else in the storage locker?
The storage locker in which his body was found, my information is that no.
Was that satchel in the storage?
Yes.
What was in it?
Can you repeat the question? I can't hear you online.
So the question was there anything else in the storage unit aside from defendant's body? And the answer is he was found in there with his satchel. There was nothing else found in there that I am aware of, but they're still in the process of searching that facility right now.
Did he kill himself right away?
We don't have any information when he killed himself, but he was dead when investigators found his body.
Can you tell us anything about his life? Like, I think you said the last time he address was in Florida. Like, what he was doing? Was he working? Was he in the field of physics, which he had studied? Any sort of biographical stuff you can tell us about him?
Because his identity was only become aware to us in the last 24 hours, I can't provide you with any of that information right now, but I'm sure once we have a full understanding of what he has been doing, where he has been, aside from the time when he entered into New England in November, we will provide that information.
Besides the MIT professor, did you know any of the victims at Brown University personally?
We have no information that he knew any of the victims or anyone who was at that auditorium on the night that he went in and killed.
Have you been able to find anything about when he did attend Brown, whether there were any issues? If he was there briefly, was he kicked out? You know.
That information hasn't been provided to us yet.
Given what you see on the video of the MIT professor's home, is there any doubt that he was the intended target of the killing?
The information that I know, and again, the investigations are going to continue to be able to provide you with all the answers that you are asking, is that there was no doubt that he was the intended target.
What was inside that?
Interesting.
That is information that is still being, the investigators are still on the scene right now conducting that investigation, and we haven't received information as to what was in the satchel.
Was there any suicide note?
No information right now.
How about in terms of the charges themselves? I mean, there was a crime in Rhode Island and also the one here. How does that sort of get sorted out? How does he get charged, et cetera?
So there are state crimes, including the murders, and then there are the federal crimes, which is one that we brought tonight. The jurisdictions are working together, and we have been sharing information together and encouraging everyone to share information that could result in solving the crimes that were committed in their jurisdictions. And we will continue to do that if there are any doubts that are left with closing out those investigations. We will continue to share all the information so that we can share with you whatever motivations come to light as to why these heinous crimes were committed.
Are you confident, I guess maybe that's not the right word, but do you believe that he acted alone, or is there any evidence that anyone else was traveling with him when he came here?
We have no information that he was acting in concert with anyone else right now.
Any evidence that he was found in the car?
That search is still underway. But we will provide you again with more information as soon as we get it.
Anything more you can tell us about, you said he hid in his own tracks. Can you talk about that a little bit, what he did?
So he was using an application on his phone, and there have been a couple of things. The Google phone doesn't allow officers to ping the direct location and get real-time location information about the phone. There was also beliefs that he was using SIM cards that were possibly European SIM cards that are carried through a provider in the United States, but does not provide real-time information about tower connections.
Yep.
In the car?
The vehicle he rented, we have video of him renting the car at Enterprise here in Boston.
And the fake plate from Maine was just.
We haven't figured out now where he got that plate from. It was an unregistered plate in Maine. We have information that that plate was a very old plate that had been taken out of the registration status over a decade ago.
When his body was found, can you just describe what he was surrounded by? Can you just paint the pictures of what was in that unit?
What I can say is he rented one unit. His body was found in a unit that was not occupied, and there was nothing else in there from what I have heard, but this is information that I was getting an hour or two ago from agents who were conducting the searches there. When we get further information, the information will be made public, including in the returns for the search warrant that we obtained this evening.
Was he living in it effectively since after the Brookline incident?
I have no information right now as to the unit that he had actually rented. The tactical teams were there to search, and they were obviously concerned that there could be booby traps or other types of security issues. And so when they noticed that that storage unit was still locked from the outside, it was clear that he couldn't be inside. And so they started searching the abandoned or the non-occupied units with the approval of the management. And that is when they found the body right next door.
I know that you haven't had much time. Does he have any sort of criminal record that you know of at this point in time?
We are not aware of any criminal record in the United States.
Do you have any information about his life in Florida? What he did?
My understanding, it was South Florida. I know that they know the address, but nothing has been made public about that yet. And I'm assuming that there will be searches.
Profession? What he did down there?
I have no information.
And just to be clear, did he fly up from Florida for this, do you think? Did he travel from Florida?
Again, the motive, and we have information of his being in New England throughout 2025. But once we get the information about why he came up here, what drove him to be up here, we will share that with the public.
And information on how long he had been a lawful permanent resident of the U.S.?
I don't have that information.
Well, I mean, the only two ties that you have or can talk about now is he went to Brown and he went to this graduate school with the professor in Portugal. I mean, those are the only two ties that you can talk about now in terms of the relationship.
That is correct right now.
Is it graduate school or undergrad?
Whatever it was, I'm sure it's in the.
They were in school.
Jackie, a question. Do you know if he was in contact with anybody either immediately before coming to New England or after he got here?
That is not information that we have to share right now.
Just one more.
Do you know, did he have any contact with anybody else besides, the rental, the hotel, in his travel?
That is information that I don't have to share with you right now.
There's one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there, there was been some reports on social media by this, saying that a man who was homeless and was sort of living at Brown was the one who sort of saw him and thought he was suspicious and took his plate number and then was urged by other people on Reddit to make sure he reported. Is that true?
He did cooperate. He actually did a really good job from what I heard. Yes.
How would you describe that?
We did receive information from a witness who encountered him after the Brown shooting and gave information that was very helpful to the investigation and in identifying Neves Valente.
You're gonna get the 50,000?
We'll let you know.
What did you say about him?
The accounts that are on the record right now is what we can comment on, but we will provide again more information so that the public will have confidence in our investigations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go back to Providence. Let's go back to the Providence. Thanks for all being here, everybody. We have a shooter that has been identified and was found dead in a storage facility up in Salem, New Hampshire this evening. Let's go back to Providence.
Were activated, including evidence response team, SWAT, divert, and victim services response team, just to name a few. A special thanks to you, the media, as well as to the community. My sincere thanks to Colonel Perez, Colonel Weaver, AG Nerona, Brown University PD, and all of our partners. This was truly a team effort. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Another critical partner at every step along the way was the ATF. I'd like to introduce Special Agent in Charge of the ATF, Tom Greco.
Good evening. My name is Tom Greco, the Special Agent in Charge of...
I'm going to get to Q&A.
That this case reflects the law.
Let's get to Q&A.
To start and kind of talk on this, to let them kind of have
today. And we're so grateful for both their immediate and heroic response and their partnership over the last 5 days.
So again, I want everybody to understand that this suspect most likely would have been caught earlier if Brown University had the proper cameras inside and in around that facility. Okay. And I want, we've been described that it took a flock camera to get them to a rental agency and then track this person inside the rental agency. They identify him because he rents the car, and then they start tracking his movements from there. And I hope, and I haven't seen this, I hope the media hammers them on this. The school takes in an average of $1.2 billion a year in tuition. And you've got to tell me, you're telling me you didn't have any cameras in and around this old building. And I guarantee you they're going to go on and say we had 1,200 cameras in and around this campus, but they weren't caught. He was not caught on those cameras. All right, let's listen to how they're going to handle this.
I want to express my ongoing prayers and care concern for our
This is the guy
entire
that
community.
This is the police head of security for Brown University that had a vote of no confidence back in October. No confidence.
I certainly also want to acknowledge and thank the men and women of the Brown University Police and Public Safety for their efforts. As you see, this was a Herculean task and required a lot of collaboration and work. And our officers and our public safety personnel were shoulder to shoulder with these assets. I do want to also thank all of you who have helped citizens and law enforcement. That partnership and collaboration.
Sheldon Whitehouse going to issue an apology.
Have gotten there without you. So thank you.
Congressman Shelton Whitehouse told us to shut up and not talk about.
We'll now open up to questions. Go ahead. Go ahead.
What led authorities to link the incidents between Brown University and MIT? Then I can follow up to that.
Yeah, I'll start. I'll just tell you that a lot of the information and evidence that we ended up gathering linked us to a connection up in Massachusetts, but obviously at the MIT. But I feel a respect to the authorities in Mass as well as the FBI that's for them to come in. But I'll tell you that the groundwork that started in the city of Providence by our detectives, the detective division under the command of Major LaPayan, as well as the federal partners that we had in our room upstairs, and ATF, the FBI, led us to that connection. And so that was great work.
Especially the FBI, well, this FBI want to weigh in on that? And then I have a follow-up.
I think through that particular link that you're talking about, that case is being worked out of Massachusetts with the leadership of U.S. Attorney Leah Foley. I believe that they're having a press conference today as well, where they'll reveal more to the general public at that time. I'd be remiss to start and kind of talk on this, to let them kind of had first dibs to kind of be the ones to tell the public about those particular links.
And your
But your follow-up, sir.
Then, as for the second person who came forward, what did that person tell you, and did that person know the shooter?
So yeah, obviously I had mentioned at the last press conference that it was a person that we wanted to speak with. The work of the video collections that we had led us to identify that there was a person that actually encountered this individual. So it corroborated everything that we saw. We saw our person of interest. We saw that there was a vehicle involved. When this person came in, broke the case in the sense that explained to us exactly what we thought we had seen and put that individual at the crime scene. Obviously, that was the break, because we knew that we were in the right direction to ensure that we were going after this individual, but obviously took his life.
Colonel.
Go ahead. Steve.
Thank you, Mayor. Did Mr. Valenti act alone, and is there an anti-Semitism component behind it, do you expect?
As far as we know, Steve, he acted alone.
And is there an anti-Semitism component?
Yeah.
No, that we know of, no.
John.
Colonel, what was the events that led to the storage facility? So was he pursued there? Did he know authorities were going after him? When was he last alive? Like, how did that play out?
So it plays out in the sense that we obviously, I just stated, we collected all the evidence. We were able to learn that there was a rental vehicle. We learned about that vehicle. There was financial records that were verified by the FBI, obviously, and other agencies. I'm sorry, actually, so another agency, so multiple agencies that verified financial records that brought us to that site to know that he had actually rented a site at the storage unit. And then we ended up in Salem.
In a follow-up,
Yeah.
when he did that, did he know authorities were coming, or did he just go and, like, how long had he been in that storage unit?
That we're not aware of, John, in the sense that all we knew is that we were on a manhunt, and that's what he led us to. So.
Amanda.
Oh, thanks. Chief, I have some questions for you about Claudio. So he graduated, what?
Yes.
He was at Brown more than 20 years ago. His last known address.
But let's keep this in mind, Mazza. And I don't know how long you've been in here, and I'm going to pause it. And I apologize, everybody. We'll get back to the press conference in a second. This is the biggest overall point in all of this. Okay, that brown building, the Barrows and Holly building, did not have the appropriate cameras in that building. There was not proper security. This institution takes in $1.2 billion on average of tuition per year, and they did not have proper security cameras in there. If there were proper security cameras in this building, the shooting of the MIT professor probably would have been stopped. They would have been able to most likely identify this person earlier. And there's going to be a lot of answering to do here. There's going to be multiple lawsuits that come out of this. And it's sickening. But the president's house of the campus, she's got plenty of security around her house. And that building's over 100 years old. And they made the excuse, well, it's an old building. The infrastructure, it's an older building. These buildings are 100 years old. But she's got proper security around her place. And she lives in one of the old buildings. All right, let's get back to the press conference.
And now he's here at Brown University, potentially also at MIT. What do you know about what brought him up here?
There's going to be unknown answers that we have no answer as far as that. Obviously, came up here and committed this horrific incident and this tragedy, and that's all we knew. Our mission was to ensure that we could find them and bring them to justice. But yeah, no, at this point, correct.
And my follow-up is of the evidence that you've collected. Have you collected the handgun that you believe was used in the shooting? Have you collected any type of manifesto or evidence? Have you planned more shootings?
So as far as I know, that's the FBI evidence recovery team is up in Salem, New Hampshire, and they're collecting whatever evidence is up there. This happened just now as before we came up here.
Bill.
Any criminal history, political affiliations, any social media posts, anything of that sort that you can report to us about Mr. Valenti?
Nothing that I know of. See.
Behind him. Go ahead, white shirt.
Is there any indication that Mr. Valenti was planning any future attacks?
Nothing that we know of, no.
In the way back.
Special Agent Docs, can you also tell us if the connection, I know you said you can't talk too much about the MIT, but the fact that it was a physics professor at MIT and in the physics building and he was studying physics, have you tied all that up, and does that lead, why target one person in Massachusetts and then a whole class here in Providence?
Yes, it is true that Mr. Valenti was a physics student. Also, we know that the MIT, the victim there, was in that discipline as well. I will tell you that there's multiple phases to an investigation. And so now, in a sense that we know the subject is deceased. Now that investigation continues to find out all of those answers to your question, sir.
Did you go to school with the professor? Did you go to school with the professor who was killed? Did Brown answer that?
It is believed that in Lisbon, that those two individuals attended the same university in Portugal.
There you go.
You have a follow-up in the back.
Muy poquito.
Go for it.
Sorry, empiezo desde el principio.
Lo que nos puedan resumir acerca del caso, ¿qué fue lo que conllevó a que ustedes pudieran dar con el paradero del sospechoso y las conexiones que tuvieron? ¿Cómo llegaron a rastrearlo y más que nada a qué atribuye todo esto?
So the question was, if I can briefly explain how we got to this individual and what occurred. So, verdaderamente lo que pasó, obviamente el incidente del sábado 13 nos llevó a tomar evidencias, colectar evidencias de videos, de informaciones, y expliqué que es muy importante el trabajo de los policías, los detectives en el piso, haciendo el trabajo duro, recolectando videos, recolectando testimonios. En este tipo de casos recibimos información, obviamente, de los videos que colectamos. Nos dimos cuenta que había un vehículo de interés y una persona de interés desde el principio. Eso nos llevó a después informarnos de la placa del carro, la descripción del carro, y eso nos llevó a darnos cuenta de que esa persona había rentado el vehículo en una compañía en Massachusetts. Después de que fuimos a Massachusetts, cogimos videos de la persona. Esa persona era en la misma descripciones de la persona de interés de nosotros acá en la ciudad de Providence. De ahí pasamos con los agentes federales a investigar un poco más y llegamos a los récords financieros que nos llevó a Salem, New Hampshire, en esta noche. Allá hubo una entrada táctica del equipo del FBI y encontramos que esta persona se había quitado la vida ellos mismos. Ahora estamos investigando más si hay algo que necesitamos saber más de él. Alex.
Colonel, or is there a note or manifesto of some kind, and is that providing any information about a motive or anything that they might have done?
Again, the FBI recovery team and forensics are up in Salem, New Hampshire. At this point, we don't have any of that.
Any indication of why now? What's the significance behind why this happened on Saturday?
That we don't know.
Yeah, I don't think we know the answer to that question. I think there's a lot of unknowns with respect to motive. I mean, I think that the real issue here is the key was to identify this person, as we talked about yesterday. I think there are other answers that are coming, but once we were able to identify him, thanks to that individual who came forward, who led us to a plate, which led us to a rental car, which led us to that he rented that car in his own name. That really broke the case open. But in terms of why Brown, I think that is a mystery. I think there may be something going on in Massachusetts that I'm not fully familiar with because we're working this angle, but I think the Massachusetts authorities may be able to share that. Yeah, I don't think we have any idea why now or why Brown, why these students, why this classroom. That is really unknown to us, and it may become clear. I hope that it does, but it hasn't as of right now.
Fox,
Yeah,
Fox,
this
go
is
ahead.
for the Colonel or the Attorney General. At 2:16, there was a surveillance video that showed the second person that apparently blew this case wide open, and also Mr. Valente. You see them disappear behind bushes. Was this second person following the shooter? Did he recognize him and confront him? What was that interaction like? And I have a follow-up.
That's a great question, and I'll be all explained in the affidavit that the general stated that will be released. But I'll give you a brief sort of explanation about that. The person that we wanted to speak with had an interaction with this individual earlier in the day, and observed him later at that time where you just stated, and decided that he was going to encounter him and asked him why he was inside Brown. At that point, the subject of interest, Neves, actually ran. He was caught up by our person that we wanted to speak with. There was sort of a conversation between the two of them, and Neves asked him, "Why are you harassing me?" And at that point, the person that broke the case walked away. And that information was critical to us because he was able to corroborate what our detectives were seeing on video, and he was able to provide a great explanation.
And my follow-up question
Yes.
is, why did it take a citizen to notice a suspicious person right next to Brown University and not the police? And also, how long was the vehicle parked where it was? And was it days, hours, minutes?
It appeared to be days as far as the evidence. Why would a civilian observe that to be suspicious? It's a great point. And I like the fact that you're mentioning that and bringing that up. That's what we should all be doing, right? And it's just personality. Some people are more interested in finding out what others are doing. In this particular case, this person decided that he wanted to, and I'm glad he did.
Should the police be interested in that?
That's it.
Citizens as well.
In the back.
Now that the suspect, Attorney General, now that the suspect won't be prosecuted, can you explain what he yelled in the classroom to America tonight so people can
Sure.
feel a little more comfortable?
Sure.
Was it something,
terrorist related? Was it something specific to the kids in that class?
Yeah.
What did he say? Can you now tell us?
Yeah, well, back to that question just for a minute, just to clarify that, they had a interaction in the bathroom in Barris and Holly. So, you know,
I
don't know
played that already,
Providence
Lori.
Police is obviously not going to patrol Barris and Holly. That's a question for, frankly, for Brown and their police department. So they had an interaction there, and then our citizen, you know, followed him out because to him,
Kind of all this fucking separation of like police forces. You know what I mean? Like there's a serious fucking situation going on. Just collaborate. Oh, well, it's not a question for our Providence Police. That's a question for Brown Police Department. Just fucking collaborate. Get to the root of the problem here. Find this fucking person. You know, it's very watching this over the last 6 days has been a fucking clusterfuck down there. No one knows anything that's going on. No one's being held accountable. No one has any of the correct answers. They don't fucking know anything. It's getting annoying. And I'm telling you, major fucking lawsuits are going to come out of this. And I hope that every single student that was traumatized by this or injured or killed, that their parents come forward and sue the fuck out of Brown University. And the president should be issuing a fucking resignation tomorrow, after tonight. Tonight, she should be fucking doing it. Not wait till tomorrow. She should be resigning. And I can't wait till they get to her. I hope they lay into her.
as he explained it to us, this guy did not belong there. And so that's why he followed him out. In terms of what was said, I don't know any more today than what I told you yesterday, or the day before. There are some witnesses who said he said nothing. There are some that say he made a barking noise. Don't ask me. I don't know why. And that's it. There is no other spoken word beyond that we are aware of as we stand before you tonight. And we have spoken to everybody that we have been able to locate who's been inside that building.
And just to the special agent in charge, my follow-up question is, can you just be clear to the people in Massachusetts? And I know you said the people in Norfolk County and investigators in Mass, but you did say a few days ago that you talked to the colonel of the state police and said
I did.
there's no connection between Brookline and what happened here in Rhode Island. But now you're saying there was a connection.
Right.
So are you saying that he shot up Brown University? Then 2 days later, he was at this house in Brookline.
2 days.
MIT professor, and then he just drove up to Salem, New Hampshire for no reason. How did he get into a storage facility?
No, I think that's a great question. My actual statement was that we didn't see a connection at that time. But absolutely, I spoke to the colonel. Right now, that case is being resided over by U.S. Attorney Leah Foley. They're having a press conference at 10 o'clock tonight.
We already watched that one.
I think at that time, they will speak to that particular case. I would be getting a little bit ahead of my skis if I spoke to that case without consultation with Leah Foley and her team, as we've been in the trenches working this up to the minute today, sir.
I guess 2 days ago, you didn't know they were connected. Now you're saying they appear to be.
Yes, and that's how cases often go. I would say at that time, when that question was asked of me, there was no indication of a link at that time. As we've talked throughout this week, these breadcrumbs develop, and we'll see what she has to say today at 10 p.m.
Yeah, if I could I just want to jump in here on that, please. I just want to jump in here on that because it's a good question. It's an important one. So just to put everyone's mind at ease who's listening now, he just drive to some random storage area. We found records with the help of the FBI and others that was his storage area. So he rented a car in Boston. He drove it. We were able to find that car in New Hampshire. We were able to find evidence in the car from looking at it from the outside that connected this individual to our crime scene here in Rhode Island. We were able to find visual evidence of him inside that storage facility, which in my judgment matches him to the Massachusetts scene. So you'll hear more, as the special agent said, but there is no question that was his storage unit, that he had a particular car, that we found that car because of this citizen coming forward and giving us a description of the car. And then our individual who came forward, we knew he was telling the truth because we could see it on the videotape. And so that was a series of things that broke this case. And that led us to Salem, where the suspect was found dead.
All by cameras that were not on campus. So they had a 2-day span in between that attack at Brown and the MIT attack. And again, if this building, the Barris building, had proper cameras, this suspect could have been identified and could have been captured within that 2-day span. And the professor at MIT life would have been saved.
Steph.
Believed to be living in Miami. Did he fly here at some point? How long was he in Providence for? And when did he obtain the guns?
Go ahead.
Yeah, he did, like I said, it'll be in the after day, but he did fly into Providence, I believe, early October, I believe. That's the right date. And what was the other question? I'm sorry, Steph.
And did he buy the guns here? Where did he get the guns?
So I'm sorry, I can't answer.
We don't know the answer to that, Steph, as we stand here right now.
Okay, you can't fly with them, so assuming you got them sometime after he arrived.
Well, that's possible. What we do know is that he was moving around New England in that October, November, December area. You remember, we just we know that there's a body in New Hampshire. We know that there are guns at the scene. It still remains to be examined, comparing those guns to the ballistics evidence we have in Rhode Island. And I imagine they'll do that in Massachusetts. But again, that's somebody else's investigation. And then, of course, we want to make sure that we match the DNA. But we are 100% confident that this is our target, and that this case is closed from a perspective of pursuing people involved.
And Steph, just to add, I think Special Agent Doc stated, obviously we didn't know who he was. And so it's very difficult to know what a person did prior without any knowledge of who that person is.
Dan. Can I just ask Special Agent this question? It sounds like from everything everybody's saying that the person who came forward to speak to you is kind of a hero in this story in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
We know that there's a $50,000 reward.
Mhm.
Did he get the reward?
You know, I will say that in this particular situation, that individual will likely get absolutely some aspect out of that award. We've had a lot of other tips, I will tell you as well, that have come in from the public. And so I don't deal typically with the distribution of those rewards. But I mean, it would be logical to think that absolutely that individual would be entitled to some of that reward.
Some of
Yes,
it.
sir.
Second row, red shirt. Go ahead. Yeah, you.
Thank you. Fox News Digital, do we know when or how the suspects left Providence? For the colonel.
Well, we know he left Providence and committed a homicide in another state.
2 days after.
But we don't know. I'm sorry, how did he leave?
Probably would have identified him.
Yeah, when he left, that's what as far as we know that he left, but we didn't, I believe his last activity was obviously when we found out he was in another state committing another crime.
Pat Ford, Coalition Radio. I'll throw this out to all of you, with particular regards to the Brown University president. A recurring theme for the last few days has been an outreach, ultimately successful, to the people of Rhode Island and the people of New England to track this individual down. While at the same time, we've got this sort of passive aggressive criticism of individuals who are being actively asked to engage via social media.
I love this.
Who are wildly spreading rumors, some of which couldn't have possibly emanated anywhere than law enforcement. And I do have a follow-up. So would anyone like to respond to that? I mean, it's kind of condescending to a lot of people. I know, Governor Theotis, you're confused. That's not uncommon. But the
All right, that's uncalled for.
All right,
We're moving on. Current. No, current.
Came forward with the case-breaking tips. Was that information originally posted online? Or shared?
They did a lot of gaslighting.
Based on what people online?
Correct. There was a tip that was placed online, and obviously we were doing our due diligence to find out who that tipster was. And then we were able to identify this person who we wanted to speak with. And then we learned that that person was actually the same person that put the tip on that up that you're speaking about.
Brian.
The
sorry?
images. That person lived in the area.
It was the same person that we brought into the police station to speak with.
The images
Brian.
that you showed at the beginning, where you can see Mr. Valente's face, where were those images taken from?
They were taken from the car rental business place that we learned
So
about.
none of them were at Brown.
No.
President Paxson, if you could, the situation is described that you had the suspected gunman and this other person had an encounter in the engineering building hours before the shooting.
you're
I've been
dumb.
told by an employee that there have been concerns raised at Brown previously about people getting in the building. Have you heard
Right.
those, and was anything done to address those concerns about people getting into the building?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. I think we're gonna
Is
have
it?
to look back and say, you know, we don't know how this person got in. We don't know when they came in.
You've got to be fucking kidding me. You don't know how this person and when this person got into the building. Please tell me they're going to question her about the fucking cameras again.
We do know that the building was unlocked that day for exams, and that's something we're gonna have to
Had you
look
heard
into.
concerns from staff members?
I'm going to pause this again. So if the door is unlocked, let me ask you a question. Why don't you have a fucking security guard out in front of the building, in front of that door? That would be a deterrent. That's called a deterrent. Or the proper cameras in and around that area. That's called a deterrent. Now, it may have not stopped this person altogether, but it might have made them think twice. Oh, and remember, Brown University police cars don't have fucking dash cameras.
In the past
I
about
have
security at the
not
building?
personally heard concerns, but yeah.
Dan. President Paxton, Dan Janney from NBC 10.
So I'll answer this, Brian. How would the camera have stopped the killing in Massachusetts? Well, if there were proper cameras in between the shooting at Brown University, the suspect had 2 days to get over to Boston, MIT, and kill that MIT professor. They would have had a 48-hour lead ahead of that if there were proper cameras in the area, because they might have identified this guy earlier. Wow.
And I want to go back to the question I asked you Saturday night when I first arrived on the scene.
Oh, boy.
There were no cameras in this building. And law enforcement, some that are standing up behind you, have said if Brown had cameras in that part of the building, we would have gotten this guy.
They said that.
And it may have stopped this swirling action. Can you answer that question for me?
Well, I don't think we have said the locations of cameras at Brown.
But there's no cameras in that building because why would they take it from a rental car agency?
We have
Fucking God.
1,200 cameras at Brown.
But not in that building.
Right.
We have some in that building. It's a large complex. And I think what you would see is the video evidence in this case, from my perspective, I'm not a law enforcement agent, has been
Obviously.
incredibly helpful.
You're not good at security
the
either.
moving of the person around the neighborhood, those video images, they help crack this case. So I think video was important. And as the Attorney General explained at a recent press
Yeah. Ring cameras of homes in the area help crack this case, not the security cameras outside Brown.
conference, this individual was not spending his time on the Brown campus. He came into a building on the edge of the campus. He left.
You have no idea how
was
we get in there.
Neighborhoods. The investigation focused on the neighborhoods. The video was there. And that was really, really instrumental in cracking the case.
And my
But you
second
can ask them.
and this is my
You're
follow-up,
gonna run away.
Madam President, if you'd stay at the podium.
Yeah.
Yes,
Don't run away.
video played a big role in this case. The neighbors' video, the
Yeah,
rental
my
car
point
video,
exactly.
but not the video from the
Right,
building
from
that he
Brown.
walked in freely both before when he got in the confrontation and when he came back in and decided to kill people. You didn't have cameras in that
I love
building.
this.
Just say it so we can get this over. And my next question is, will you put
Dan, you got
cameras?
one
In,
follow-up.
will
Yeah.
you put the cameras in the
No,
building?
no.
Will
Yeah.
there be more cameras in that building?
Yeah, you know, I think we need to look back. We'll look at everything that is done, but I do not think a lack of cameras in that building
Oh,
it has
this lady
anything
felt
to
tone
do
deaf.
with what happened there.
Thank you.
And we will
Thank you,
go
Madam
forward.
President.
Thank you.
Yeah, run away.
Tom.
Tom Quinlan, WPRO. Colonel Perez. I'm here
Hurts
with
when you get to
some
answer the tough
sources
questions.
that The person that identified the shooter happened to be a homeless person that either lived around or inside that Barris and Holly building. Can you confirm more about this person for us? And then I have a follow-up for President Paxton.
I'll tell you, there was a person that was pretty attentive about his surroundings. I'll tell you, there was a person that was very cooperative and helpful to this investigation. And I'll tell you that he was a great individual that actually assisted us in getting us to this point where we're at. I'll tell you that. He was, yes.
I have to say, he was incredibly articulate, and his testimony, had we needed it, would not only have been credible, it would have been persuasive. He was as outstanding a witness as I've seen, and he deserves a lot of credit, you know, recognizing there's a gunman on the loose, that the gunman knows he had this interaction with him, and he didn't, once he knew that we were looking for his help, I mean, he came forward within an hour, and that person deserves a tremendous amount of credit. I don't know whether he's going to get the reward or not, but if I had a vote, he would.
Tom, you got to follow.
100%.
Are you done? Go ahead.
My question was for Chair Chapman, if you wouldn't mind. In October, the Brown Daily Herald reported that you had a vote of no confidence in your leadership, and students were concerned for their safety and the fact that you had prioritized desk jobs over having over field jobs and having more people patrolling the campus. Now, in light of this, do you accept any kind of responsibility for this? And now that we've given these prior warnings, are you going to reevaluate how the Brown police operate in the future now, so this doesn't happen again and these students can feel more safe on campus when they return?
Great. So as I stated earlier, I'm profoundly proud of the men and women of public safety and profoundly proud of our police department.
And keep in mind, this is the chief of security or chief of police at Brown University, and they call him Chief Rodney, and he was voted as a vote of no confidence in August, and then voted again and confirmed in October of this year. No confidence vote in his job.
Continue with the heroic work that they've done and continue to work side by side with our partners, and everything else that comes with that is a continual
Yeah, I'm going to go through it this
effort to do
weekend.
what is best
Vermont
for the
professor.
safety and security of our campus.
But will you reassess how the people are allocated within your department?
Every single day, we work and endeavor to keep our campus safe, whatever that entails and all that entails.
You got to be
In the
kidding.
back.
Yes, thank you. I was wondering, maybe this question for the Colonel. Can you talk about, you said that 2 weapons were found in Valencia's car. Was that one of those weapons, the gun that was used to shoot here in Brown? Has that weapon been found?
That's all part of this continuing investigation. This just before we came downstairs, actually, as you all were watching, that was developing up in Salem, New Hampshire.
Can you say whether or not that the weapons were purchased?
Hold on a second.
Yeah, those firearms were found at the deceased body, not in a car. So he killed himself inside the storage unit, and the firearms were found at his in the area of his thigh and in the area of his feet. It was not in a car. There was evidence that was observed from outside the car that matched our crime scenes, meaning mask, clothing, satchel, which you can see on that video. And there was a main plate over a Florida plate. This guy was changing plates. One of the reasons it was so hard to find was he knew what he was doing. He was changing plates.
The reason it was so hard to find is because you didn't have proper cameras in the areas that you should have, that probably would have caught more of this guy in and around that area. That's why it was so hard to find, because you had no fucking clue.
And so, that's why the collective work of following and finding this car was made more difficult, because this guy was changing plates. So we got a main plate and we got a Florida plate on the same car in New Hampshire.
Patrick.
As he was a.
Oh, I'm sorry. Especially.
So many lawsuits out of this.
Tom Greco again from ATF. It's okay. As far as the ballistics evidence, I know that the last question concerned matching the guns found to the crime scene. As several people up here have said, this investigation is ongoing, and in many ways, in some ways, still just beginning. Those weapons that were found at the scene, we will be using our tools such as NIBIN to compare the ballistic evidence to see if we have any matches. So we use those tools to rule things in and to rule them out as well.
So we'll be following up on that throughout the remainder of the investigation.
Patrick.
Neves Valente was a Portuguese national. Under what status was he in the country, and how did he get into the country? Do we know at this point? I have a follow-up after that.
You have that, Oscar?
Yeah, I think, definitely. Yeah, I do. So as far as we know, he had a student visa. He had came in here with a student visa, and we also had learned that he had applied to get a green card.
Do we know, sorry, and for President Paxson, does Brown have
And
any-
Patrick, if I could just be clear on that, he got that lawful permanent resident status in September of 2017.
Thank you. I was going to ask, but then, and for President Paxson, has Brown had any communication from Neves Valente in the period after he left until now?
As far as I know, no, he has really gone off our radar. We will continue to cooperate with the police as they continue with the investigation to find anything we can find about him. But his last class that he took at Brown was in 2001.
Straight back.
This question's for the Colonel or the Attorney General. If you hadn't focused on the law enforcement interest on day one, do you think the professor in Massachusetts could be alive?
Well, from the beginning, I've told you that this investigation is extremely complex and intense. And so we used every resource as soon as we responded to the call. I stated that earlier. I'm proud of the men and women of this department. Yes, we did find somebody that we thought obviously was the person, but we continued on. We continued on investigating. We continued on canvassing the areas. We continued on with video. And that's why we ended up where we're at now.
Yeah, if I could just jump in here, I just want to continue to answer that question. It's an important one. And the answer to that is this, and I tried to convey it a couple of days ago. We broke ourselves out into teams. So while the Providence team and the state police team and the ATF team were working here in Providence to follow up leads, develop whatever video evidence we can, which eventually led to all the steps that you've seen and are laid out in the affidavit, which is on our website, and it is multiple pages. You'll see the progression. So while the FBI were working Coventry, we were working here. Now, you may ask, well, what was it about Coventry that made us, for those of us who've been in law enforcement for a long time, why did we have to run that lead to ground? Here's why. When the FBI confronted him, initially, he was not cooperative. When they entered the room to secure it, there were guns in the room. One of them had a laser sight. The witnesses had told us there was a laser sight used in the course of the attack. Okay, we had to run that to ground. We couldn't just not run that to ground. That was a very promising lead.
Guys,
but that's why you don't get over your skis.
As a douche canoe. He's so confrontational. He's so always so upset.
And word choice is important. So while we had to test those ballistics and test the DNA off those guns, and that DNA ruled this guy out, okay? But we had to run that lead to ground. But while we're running that lead to ground over the course of Sunday, for the most part, my memory's correct, we were working other leads, which eventually led us to a recreation by the great work of the team, including the marshals, by the way, that are up here. Movements, image of our cooperating witness, witness comes in, and you've heard the rest. So, this is the way these investigations work. You don't chase one and stop. We have chased more than one lead over the course of the last 4 to 5 days. There was one lead that we followed, didn't work out. There was another lead that we followed, didn't work out. There was another lead that we followed, didn't work out. So that's at least in my mind 5 different leads that didn't. The one worked out, 4 didn't. But you're running them all down at the same time. So I can't offer any comfort in that regard. But I don't believe that we would have found this person any sooner, given the evidence that was available to us.
The way back.
Can you say why it took so long to get the picture checked? It looks like he posted on Reddit on Monday and then said on Reddit that he told the FBI. Was it lost in the FBI's tip?
We received the tip about that post and immediately acted on it. And so that's exactly what occurred. As soon as the tip came in, we had a tip center upstairs that was staffed, as I mentioned earlier, by detectives and agents. They were going through hundreds of tips that were coming in, hundreds. We were vetting them through, ruling them out, just like the general stated. We were making sure that whatever came in, we checked it to his entire to ensure that we were missing anything. And so when we got to that tip, obviously, it led us to that person that we wanted to speak with, and I told you the rest earlier. So.
Yeah, and I just want to complete that too, because this is important. This person had to come forward. So we put the picture out. Once we put the picture out, he came forward, right? But we didn't know who that person was. We knew about what was on Reddit, but we didn't.
He's gonna be the one when they're questioned. This is what you're gonna get. But we did this, and we did this, and then when there's the lawsuits and they're fucking sued, and the AG's gonna go in and give testimony or give a deposition, he's going to be the one that does this. And then we had to do this. And there's always a fucking excuse. You know, it's always a fucking excuse with this guy. But it's passing the blame, passing the buck. And I hate people like this because they know they failed. They fucked up. They were not clear over this last 6 days to the public. First, we want all your tips. Now we don't want your tips. Now we don't want you to talk. We had Congressman Sheldon Whitehouse yelling at us. You know, we need to shut up. We need to stop sharing stuff on social media. Okay, sure, no problem. No proper cameras in and around this campus. This whole fucking thing was botched.
Didn't know who that person was. That's why when we identified another person, we didn't know when that person came forward that he was the Reddit poster. He then told us he was. Okay, so all of these things kind of happened in that sequence.
All right. You fucking save everybody up there.
Do we know why he left school early in 2001? Did he have a history of mental illness that was like expressed during that time or before that time?
No, we learned his name very, very recently, and we haven't had a chance to really dig into the records, but we will if it helps with the investigation.
Probably should. We will.
Yeah. So he's not here on a student visa now. He was initially, and then he applied for and received lawful permanent resident status in September of 2017. Okay.
Go right ahead.
Again, as I said earlier, we just identified who obviously that person, and this developed pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So that's all part of the investigation that's coming.
And can you talk about, was there any interaction between him and law enforcement before he died?
No, now that we know.
I have a follow-up to her,
There
and
you
that
go.
is, do you know any associates of his family members, friends, roommates? And if there are any in the United States, did any of them come forward through the process of this investigation?
No, not at this time. This evolved extremely quickly. We've been at this for 6 days. And so here we are, and we now identify who the person is. We're about to make an apprehension. As I stated earlier, he took his own life, but that's all part of the investigation that will continue about him. Go ahead.
Okay, so for President Jackson, Chief Barrow said he had no known criminal history that you know of. You were asked about possible mental illness while he was here. When he was at Brown, did he have any grievances, disputes with anyone, any problems, any disciplinary issues, any problems at all that were documented?
Not that we know of at this point. I mean, again, these are very, very old records. You have to understand. We learned about this very recently.
Excuses.
And I think going forward, as we want to learn more, we will cooperate with the investigation to give them the information they need.
Go ahead, in the white shirt.
Claudio Valente.
This question is for Colonel Perez.
Claudio Valente.
Claudio was the primary suspect, primary focus from the beginning. If that's the case, can you elaborate more on why there was someone else detained initially, and the lead that led you to that person to being detained initially, if Claudio was the primary focus from the beginning?
Yeah, so.
And I have a follow-up.
Sure, Brittany. Great question. So we have received a tip about that first person. We have received a tip about him wanting to get a permit to carry a firearm. And so that led us to also learn that he was a person who potentially could be, it was just where he was denied and then he went to another department and the descriptions led us there. So we had it vetted through. Obviously, the FBI responded, followed through that whole tip.
You're watching a live news conference out of Providence. The suspected Brown University killer and killer of a professor at MIT is dead. Police say he was 48-year-old Claudio Neves Valente, a former physics student at Brown University. He was of Portuguese descent.
So we've been hearing about the investigation around Brown. They say this was obviously tied to the MIT murder. We're going to go to Boston now. The U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts is holding a press conference with that angle of the investigation.
All right. I'm gonna pause here because we've already gone through this, the Boston presser. So that's where we are. That's where we are in this investigation. I have the affidavit. We'll go through it at some point this weekend, maybe on Sunday. And I want to keep tracking this. I want to see what kind of activities in and around Providence. I'm obviously on the press list, but I don't think there's going to be any presses from Providence anymore. So I'm on the media list. They'll let me know. And, I'll keep my eyes and ears open. Maybe I take a ride into Providence tomorrow in and around Brown just to see what's going on. Obviously, the investigation has shifted now, so they may be wrapping up there. But maybe I can get down there and speak to some people in the area and see how they feel and how they felt about this investigation. What was the area like over these last 6 days? But I'll keep everybody updated. Obviously, tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the huge Karen Reed Stronger Together holiday fundraiser. I hope you'll all come over here and support our fundraiser and support Karen in any way that you can. And that's going to run from 7 to 10 p.m. Tomorrow night. So it's going to be streamed across multiple channels. We're very excited about it. We're going to have great guests on. We're going to have some surprise guests that come on, and we're really looking forward to it. So that's it right now. That's all I have for all of you guys. I'm going to get off and get some rest. Keep tracking the story. I'll be updating on X. And please just make sure to follow me over there. And if anything majorly breaks, I'll jump online and give you an update. So that's it. That's where we're at. Unfortunately, the shooter was found tonight, deceased, self-inflicted gunshot wound in Salem, New Hampshire. And that's kind of where this investigation is. And hopefully they can start piecing all this together in the next couple of days and make a little bit more sense of it. But thank you that this guy is caught. Well, was essentially caught, but deceased. And the sad thing about it is, being deceased, we won't have all the right answers, but we can put the evidence together and look at the totality of the situation and try to get some type of answer. So that's it, everybody. I hope everybody has a great night. Thank you for jumping in. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll talk to everybody soon. Take care. Have a good night. Bye-bye.